Hi, it's Taryn from Soothing Stitches, and I wanted to show you how I like to do a French knot. Now the pattern I'm using here is our Meadow pattern, and the technique we're using for our French knot is to fill in kind of like our Queen Anne's lace flower on this project. So once I've threaded my needle, you'll see on our pattern that little circles demarcate the French knots, and that's because we're trying to get almost more of a spread French knot. What I mean by that is a traditional French knot is coming up through your fabric, holding this side taut, winding the thread around your needle twice, and going back down into that same hole. And you'll see that creates a nice little neat little knot. But because I'm trying to replicate the texture of my Queen Anne's lace flower, I'm actually going to make them a little more spread out, a little more messy, a little more like a meadow flower would actually be. So what I'm going to do is actually take my 3 strands of thread and I'm going to wind it around my needle 4 times. So it's creating a slightly bigger French knot. Now I'm holding it tight and I'm going to put the needle back, but instead of putting it right back through that same hole, I'm actually going to spread it out in that circle a little bit to try and fill out my circle. And you'll see I'm holding this thread in my left hand taut while I push the needle down, just to hold everything in place. And once I get closer to it, that thread actually wants to hold that knot in place. And that's how we do our French knots. Go over that one again, go on the one side of my circle, and place it a little bit of a stitch, hold it taut with the one hand, pull the needle through with the other. Now, you'll see there, it's not as tight as a normal knot, but because we've done 4 loops, it's actually spread it out a little more. So I'm going to continue to do this. Now what I like about all our patterns is that I'm not being prescriptive about where the French knots need to be placed. So do what you think feels right. If there's a gap, fill it up. And what I even do is use different number of winding around on your needle to get the texture of a flower. Flowers aren't all perfectly uniform. So maybe for this gap over here, I'm just going to wind it around 3 times. Put it a little bit closer so my knot's a little bit smaller, but it's filling in the gap of those other knots wonderfully. And so I carry on to create the top of my flower. So the pattern I'm stitching on here is called the Virginia Meadow pattern. It will be in our shop soon, and the reason I created this pattern was ever since moving to Virginia in the summertime, I love driving down the roads of our fields next to our farms, and I'm always seeing these beautiful wildflowers. I always thought to myself, I'd love to embroider those. I think they look so pretty. So this is a start of what might become a meadow series of different meadow flowers that I'm going to try to embroider. But this is particularly on a road in our neighborhood called Sensony Road, filled with Queen Anne's lace. So as I've come to learn, they're also called wild carrots. And just little delicate daisies, the occasional sunflower. And you'll see there we filled up our end of our petal. And if you don't like it, you can add some more if you want it a bit filled out. I've left these quite spaced out to replicate more of the Queen Anne's lace flower.